Welcome to the Hockey Writers Flames Faceoff, a weekly show with our top Calgary Flames writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the Flaming Sea. So get set, get focused. It's time for the Flames Faceoff. Flames Faceoff.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Quinney, and this is the Flames Faceoff, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. This week's show is being brought to you by the Morning Skate, and that's a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday, and it's jam-packed. I'm a subscriber, very pleased with it. It's got the best hockey stuff on the planet. It is a daily dose of your NHL news. It's got rumors, histories, funnies, quizzes. It's just a little hockey fun and information brought to you every day of the week, Monday through Friday, delivered right to your inbox by the Hockey Writers. Now, you'll see at the bottom of the screen a link to it. Go to that link and subscribe to it. You've got to subscribe, but I guarantee you'll enjoy the publication very much. So on our panel today, we have Greg Tysowski, Colton Panque, and Mr. Brett Krauss. Welcome, gentlemen. I hope you're doing well. Yeah? Okay.
Doing good.
Ready to go. We'll jump right into it because we've got a lot to talk about this week. The first being, of course, Thursday's disastrous loss to the Ottawa Senators. There's no way to sugarcoat this, gentlemen. The Calgary Flames were beaten 4-1 by a team that stands at number 30, if I've got that right, in the NHL standings. They were just outshot. They gave up 3 goals off turnovers. They were outbattled, outworked, outplayed. In short, they were just bad. And that insult to injury, Markstrom was disappointing. So, question, gentlemen, what should we make of the week, and what does it say about the team? Greg, I'm going to start with you. Your take.
You know, I was really surprised by that effort, because you might recall 1 week ago we asked our predictions, and I think you two guys had like a blowout, like 6-1 or something, and I thought I was being more cautiously optimistic with like a 4-2 win for the Flames. And when that first goal went in on the first shot, something inside me just said, you know, here we go again. Like these guys are not going to beat the Senators again, and you know, Sutter had talked about it about a day later, about this lack of emotion and something, and just they weren't engaged. And he was kind of spitballing in this press conference about, you know, maybe it's some kind of COVID hangover, or some people just aren't 100% yet, but he was none too pleased about this lack of emotion. And I don't know how you don't get up for your first home game in a month, you know, like, and there's fans in Calgary who are starving for NHL action, and this is the best you can come up with. So I have no answers as to why they were so flat. Like you would think that after this 3-game losing streak against some really good teams, they were coming across a really bad team. No offense to any Ottawa Senators fans out there, but I have no answers as to why they didn't show up. So someone out there enlighten me.
Well, maybe Colton Panque can do that. Colton, your take on it. What the heck happened Thursday night? My goodness.
Yeah, it was like Greg had alluded to. If it was just the one game, then I think you can kind of just get past it and say it just wasn't their night. But it's kind of been a continuing trend lately that almost kind of feels like last season, where, like Sutter said, just there's not a ton of emotion. It kind of, you almost question maybe like I don't want to say the compete level, but just, I guess, the emotion to the game. It seems like they're not really invested right now. And I think you've seen it last season too with the Senators. For whatever reason, it just seems like they have their number. I don't know what that is, but yeah, I think the lack of emotion after some time off, and like Greg said, they hadn't played in a home game for quite some time. So I think it was pretty surprising, and I think not time to panic yet, but it is definitely worrisome.
Yeah. Brett, I mean, now they're a perfectly average club. They're a 500 hockey club, spot on, and they're hard to believe, really, but they're actually in a fight now for the wild card spot. How do you think they're feeling? What do you think explains Thursday night? Any thoughts on it? Insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think the inconsistency with, after going on their COVID outbreak, being shut down for 2 weeks, and then it's kind of been off and on here with postponed games, and now they finally play in the Saddledome for the first time in a month there against Ottawa. So I think it has a lot to do with inconsistency. Everybody says that pro athletes are such creatures of habit and doing the same thing day in and day out and preparing for games and playing games. And so I think part of it's probably just, it's one day they're practicing, and practicing for the entire week, but don't get to play any games. So, but also their on ice performance hasn't, been that great either. Their forwards of scoring is kind of dried up. We haven't seen many goals from Mangiapane as of recently. And, of course, a big problem we've talked about is their secondary scoring. And Jacob Markstrom, both goalies really haven't been as good as they were to start the season. And we saw, Dan VLADAR played back-to-back nights because Markstrom wasn't ready to go. So that's also something that could be worrisome, kind of flashing back to last season when he just never regained form after coming back from injury last season.
Yeah. Well, let's stick with that. Markstrom in his last 5 games, he's has a save percentage of a .877 and a goals against average of 3.8. Now, the recent losses, they're not all on him, of course. A bunch of guys playing in front of him have let him down, frankly. But, I forget which game it was last week. Sutter said, sometimes your goalie needs to be better than your opponent's goalie, and that hasn't happened. And as you point out, VLADAR, he kept them in a few games, but he too's been average. So I don't know, Greg, any thoughts on what's up with Markstrom?
Well, it's funny. I was just reading an article that was published earlier last week, and it was about a reporter asking Markstrom straight up, like, what's happening, and he kind of said, and the reporter asked, "Can you clarify what your injury was?" And Markstrom just said, "No." He said, "Was it performance related or physical? Like, what kept you out of the game?" And he said, "I don't know." Like, he's being totally cryptic, and he's not revealing anything. He's kind of been known to be a bit of kind of a sarcastic guy and with reporters and whatnot, but I don't really like the fact that there's all this mystery, like, shrouded, like they won't even tell us if it's, COVID related kind of hangover, or if it's tweaked the back, or like his, knee is sore. Like, there's zero information. So I don't really know what's up with Markstrom. I know that it's funny. I have a couple of friends who live in Vancouver who really liked him as a goalie, but they always kind of complained that you can't play him that much. He seems to be not like that durable. And I think Markstrom proved that last year with some injuries, and I think he needs more time off than you think. So I'm glad that VLADAR is a pretty solid backup. But I think just the big problem with Markstrom is I don't think he's like a 60, 70 game guy. I think he's more like a 50 game guy. So I think that could be part of the problem.
What do you think, Colton? Do you think he's because I read something similar to what Greg was saying, is he injured? Have you heard anything?
Yeah, I mean, like Greg said, haven't heard anything because they've kept it very quiet. But I think just with how he's played lately, you have to question it, because I think up until these struggles, I think you'd have a hard time arguing that he wasn't their MVP. I think he was stealing games just flat out and was really in the Vezina running. I think his numbers are still really good this season, but obviously lately it's been a bit of a struggle for him. So I do think it seems like something must be bugging him. I think just with this drop off out of nowhere, and hopefully it's something that, like, in the little time off they have here, you can kind of get back. But if not, then I do wonder if they kind of give VLADAR at least kind of 50-50 starts, or start playing him more than they have to this point in the season.
Yeah. Well, Brett, what are your thoughts on going with VLADAR? I mean, if Markstrom is injured or he doesn't come back to the form that he needs to be in, how far can you ride VLADAR?
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the season, we kind of talked about how long because we all said, Sutter does like to use his number one as much as possible, but I think they need to get at least 20 games out of VLADAR if they're gonna, try and make any sort of run here into the playoffs. They gotta have a Markstrom that's healthy. So if he's getting overworked, they can't have that. So yeah, I've kind of had a target of 25 games at least for VLADAR. I think he's up to the challenge. He, started out really well. Hasn't been as good as of late, but yeah, because if Markstrom goes down, then he's the Flames' number one guy. So I think they got more games, the better they got for VLADAR.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, a few weeks ago, there was this group of Calgary Flames writers predicting that he'd be 60% shoo-in for a bet for the Vezina. I don't know who those guys were, but, so my things have changed in a couple of weeks. But, moving on to kind of taking a look at what's wrong with the Flames, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask, well, what's wrong with Calgary's defense? Last week, Sutter, I think it was after the Florida game, he said some of his defensemen, quote, weren't into defending or checking. And he also mentioned that some of his players on the blue line were struggling with the size and speed of bigger and better teams. What do you think Sutter can do about this, Greg?
Well, he mentioned some guys specifically when he was talking about his defense, and no one was surprised to hear him talk about Goodbranson and Zadorov because no one's really been all that impressed with these guys from the get-go. But he also singled out the pairing of Noah Hanifin and Rasmus Andersson, and I'm a little bit surprised that these guys have fallen off somewhat because Noah Hanifin had probably a career year for being, a solid defenseman last year, and then we've been talking about Rasmus Andersson having a bounce back season this year. So they were a pretty solid pairing to start the year. So I'm kind of surprised that they've fallen off. And Sutter he didn't mention Shillington and Tanev, and for good reason. I just read an article recently about those two guys there. In the advanced metrics and all these newfangled stats that all the young people like, they're like near the top of the league, and in a lot of these stats, they're the top 4, top 5. In some of these analytical defensive stats. So I'm kind of surprised about Hanifin and Rasmus Andersson falling off. I'm not surprised about Zadorov and Goodbranson. And I don't think you do anything about that second pairing, but that third pairing, there's so many options. We talked about it last week. There's guys, on Stockton Heat you can bring up. There's Michael Stone's been sitting as a healthy scratch for, I think, all but one game this year. So they have options to try and beef up that third pairing, but I just think, that second pairing should hopefully bounce back because they weren't this bad earlier in the season. They kind of been tailing off in recent weeks here.
Yeah. Colton, what are your thoughts? I mean, you've been writing a bit about the possibility of trades. Could that be in the cards, trading for a top 4 defenseman?
I think it would really depend cap-wise and everything, because I think Brett alluded to it earlier, like secondary scoring is something that they really need to add as well. But I think it's not really any secret that third pairing is just really lacking. Like they struggle against speed, and I think as good as that second pair has been, like Greg said, I think it's really shown even last year with Hanifin that anyone that Tanev plays with, their overall play boost. So I do wonder if maybe they even try to mix that up just to get a spark if Andersson and Hanifin aren't giving Sutter what he wants. But that third pairing, yeah, I don't know. I know Stone last season didn't seem to play until the end of the year, and then when he got put in, he actually played pretty well. So I don't think giving him a game here or there hurts, or even maybe calling up one of the younger guys from the farm.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Brett? I mean, I and others, a lot of people have been saying, the biggest problem the Flames have is lack of secondary scoring, but Sutter came out and disputed that directly and said it's not scoring. we're scoring 3 goals a game. In his mind, I think he views hockey as it's a 1-goal league. So, 2 can win you games, 3 should, and he's pinning it on the defense. What's your take on that? Is it secondary scoring, or does it go right back to the defense that they've got to address?
I mean, I think I'm going to disagree there with him. I think, the secondary scoring is easily the lacking problem that you can see, because on a night when the top line essentially, and Gaudreau especially, aren't on their game, the Flames kind of just spin their tires all night and nothing really gets going. They don't kind of have another line that takes over if the top line just isn't getting it done. So yeah, I mean, the defense hasn't been as good as of late, but I mean, Tanev and Shillington are, as Greg said, one of the top pairings in the league right now, and Zadorov, Goodbranson, it's kind of what everybody expected to this point. So yeah, I still think they need more scoring. I mean, yeah, you can win a game by 1 or 2 goals, but you could also win that at a 6-5 for 7-6 score. And I mean, you can just have to look down in Florida there, and they're just scoring in bunches right now. And so it never hurts to have, more offense, because if you can outscore your opponent, then the defense kind of sort of not as bad of a look when you're scoring 5 goals a night.
Man, Sutter's ears will be burning if he could hear you say that. Good Lord. This is the Flames Faceoff, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. And don't forget to sign up for the Hockey Writers Morning Skate at morningskate.io, so you don't miss the best daily hockey coverage, best newsletter on the planet, if I do say so myself, as a member of the Hockey Writers writing crew. It's delivered every day at 8 a.m. sharp. So be the first to know what's happening in the world of hockey. I wanted to turn now to something Greg brought up right off the top of the show, and I kind of was taken aback just as much as Greg was. You've got Sutter coming out and saying after Tuesday's game, and I'm quoting here, "It's disappointing that the energy and the emotion was lacking in our game. The emotional level of our group has been lacking for some time now." So, the question I have is, how did we get here? How is it that the head coach and then Matthew Tkachuk and Milan Lucic can just kind of matter-of-factly say, yeah, we just lacked emotion. Greg, your thoughts on that? That nobody's particularly concerned about it.
Well, I was befuddled off the top of the show, and I remain befuddled because I don't know, like the only thing I can point to is just this disjointed season, and this they go through this longest layoff in the league this year, with the COVID protocol, and then with this postponements of games because of the lack of crowd restrictions and everything in Calgary, is like they're having like very little games. Like they played 1 game last year. They had last week rather. They had 3 practices. I don't know. I'm not an NHL player, so I don't know how hard it is to get up for these games. But if you're not playing games, I'm thinking you're kind of at a pretty low emotional level. Like, I don't know how intense these practices are and how much emotion there is, but I think you actually need an opponent to get, some kind of any level of emotion to kind of get your juices flowing. And I think just the fact that, they haven't been playing games. Like they've had very few games in the last month and a half. So I'm thinking that has to do something with this problem, because other than that, how do you explain not showing up for these games, just emotionally checked out? It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm hoping that someone else has a better theory than that.
I don't know, Colton, are you buying that? I mean, I look at the Ottawa Senators. They hadn't played in a ton of games. All of them were postponed, but they were sure up last Thursday night against the Flames. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, I get that they have been off for a long time, but there's other teams that have gone through things similar to that this year and haven't really had the same problems getting up for games. And it's kind of the same thing last year again. And I don't want to, I think the leadership, I don't think there's anything that needs to be overly concerned about there, but you did hear some rumblings about maybe some locker room rifts and everything last year. And it's just, when they say like the emotions low, that kind of compete levels low, it's the same thing as last season. And you almost kind of just wonder if there's maybe a bit of a deeper problem. And I know last year they tried to make that change with the coaching change when they brought in Sutter, and it seemed like it was working this season, but for whatever reason, it really just feels like it's gone back to last year again. Like Greg said, I don't really know the reasoning behind that. I don't have a great answer for it, but it's confusing and it's definitely concerning.
All right, explain all this, Brett. What the heck's going on? How do guys making, $5-6 million matter of factly just say, I didn't feel like getting up for the game? I'm paraphrasing there, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of really like anybody in any sort of job. There's days you go in and you're just not productive, but when you're an elite level athlete, you're expected to perform at your highest every day when you're at the office. So emotion's a hard one to explain because it's not something that can be calculated or graphed that you can look at and make assumptions. It's, everyone's sort of different. So I kind of see it as, we didn't really expect the Flames to be where they were. And then they started so hot after last season, and then this season started so hot. And now they're kind of going through a rough patch, which I think we talked about kind of in the early goings about their sort of winning ways to start the season, and how this has kind of set them up for this exact thing. Was, they could take a couple losses, although the streak is getting a little long here. They do have to get it turned around. But yeah, I think that's just the way, sports goes. You got your highs and your lows, and we didn't really expect the Flames to be, cup contenders. A lot of people didn't even expect them to be playoff contenders after last season. So I think really the only teams you have seen stepping on the gas and not letting off is kind of the cup contenders, the Floridas, Tampa Bays, Carolinas. So I think this is just kind of a regular sort of roller coaster ride of emotion for the Flames, and hopefully they can get it sorted out.
Well, in a shootout round last week, I think we all predicted that if they lost to Ottawa, as that was the mood last week, they'd be doing a bag skate. So I'm wondering, did they actually end up doing some bag skates? So I don't know. Well, if you hear anything, let me know. And speaking of the shootout round, let's move to that. Off the top, the Flames face the Florida Panthers in the Saddle Dome Tuesday night. So give me a final score, Greg. Go out on a limb here.
I think they're gonna copy the Senators game, and they're gonna lose 4-1 again. I think they're gonna get outplayed and outclassed. Hope they don't, but I think they will.
Colton, what are you saying for Tuesday night?
Yeah, I want to be optimistic, but I've seen today the Panthers have scored 50 goals in their last 8 games, so it's kind of they're a scary team to play. So I'll say 5-2 Panthers. You
got $1,000 on the outcome of Tuesday's game here. We decided that. So what's the score going to be against the Florida Panthers?
Ooh, well, I think it might be a Sam Bennett revenge game. He's been pretty hot here the last couple of weeks. So I think the Flames once again are going to get outplayed. We'll see how, because last game they put up 49 shots, but I don't see the same fate. So I'm going to go 5-3 Panthers with a couple from Sam Bennett.
All right, we're going to see next week when we do this how those predictions turned out. Now, next Saturday, the Calgary Flames face the godless Edmonton Oilers in the Battle of Alberta. Greg, how's that one going to turn out?
Well, the Oilers have to win at some point. They blew a big lead against Ottawa the other day, and I was surprised to see them collapse like that. So It's funny, but the Oilers seem to find a way, as do other teams, to break streaks against the Flames. I don't know why that happens, but it seems to happen. So I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm going to do another Flames loss. This time it'll be tight, 4-3, Flames lose.
All right, Colton, you any more optimistic than Greg is?
Yeah, I think obviously we talk about the Flames in a slide right now, but the Oilers are just like everything's falling off of them. And I think they need a change there. I don't necessarily blame coaching staff, but I just think they need something to get back on track. And until that change happens, I don't see them getting out of this. So I'll say 4-2 Flames.
Brett, finish this off. What's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm with Colton here. The Oilers are in a whole nother world of despair compared to the Flames right now. So, and I thought the Flames played fairly well in their season opener loss to the Oilers. So I'm going to say 4-3 in overtime.
Okay. All right. Now against Ottawa, Matthew Tkachuk gave his brother Brady what Brady termed a cup shot, and that is he tapped the Tkachuk family jewels with a blade of his stick after Brady put him on his keister in front of the Ottawa net. So question, which one of them will their mother discipline first, Brady or Matthew? What do you say, Greg?
I think she gives both of them a timeout. Just both of you go to your rooms and don't come back out until you shake hands. And, I have two brothers, and I have no problem with that display of emotion, because when I saw that, I thought that was excellent. Like two brothers going at it, one of them being a little dirty. And, I think they both deserve a timeout, but I can definitely support that little battle of the Tkachuk household.
Okay. Colton, your prediction, who's Chantel going to discipline first? Brady or Matt?
I know. Just being the oldest sibling in my family, it always seems to be the oldest one's fault and those sort of things. So I'll go with Matthew.
All right, Brett. Who's she gonna beat with a spoon first?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Matthew for the cheap shot there. I think she'll probably give a little bit of a finger wag to Brady for the shot after the whistle. But yeah, I think the cup shot takes the lead there.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know how we'll know, but hey, we have our sources. We have our sources on this show. But I wanted to continue on with the shootout rounds. Colton, I wanted to touch on you on this one. You kind of alluded to it earlier. So I'll start with you. Will Evander Kane end up in Edmonton?
A few days ago, I would have said yes, but now just hearing all like the bigger ramifications of this and everything, it sounds like another suspension could be incoming. I mean, his last one was 21 games, so this one would have to be, I think, probably at least 30 if he does. And then on top of that, it sounds like with the traveling, since he had COVID, there could even be some like legal action taken. So at this point, I say no. I think if a team does go after him, it'll be this next offseason, but I can't see him signing with anyone before the end of the year.
Yeah. Greg, Kane in Edmonton. I mean, last night on Hockey Night in Canada, they seemed to think there was a good possibility that's exactly where he's going to end up. Your thoughts?
Well, I think Colton's right. It all depends on if there's going to be any kind of, or how much discipline he's going to face. If he gets some kind of minor slap on the wrist for his latest, incidents that are his latest kind of breaking of the COVID rules and whatnot, then I can see him actually signing with somebody but if it's like Colton says, if it's a big, long suspension, like he's already been through this year, then absolutely not. But I guess we'll wait and see just to see what the league hands down. And then I'll give a definitive answer.
Okay. Brett, you going out here on a limb here, Kane in Edmonton?
Yeah, I think Edmonton probably makes the most sense kind of from a hockey standpoint. They need any help they can get, but yeah, who knows? It's because it's almost seemed like there was going to be a deal last week, signed and delivered, but that hasn't happened, and now there's all these legal hurdles popping up. So yeah, but I think Edmonton will be the team that he goes to if he does get back into the NHL this season.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they're desperate enough. If they don't make the playoffs, I don't know what's going to happen to that organization. There'll be huge changes this year. So they need all the help they can get. Thank you, gentlemen. We've run out of time, but as always, that was a great discussion. And thank you, everybody, for joining us again. And before we go, in case we haven't convinced you, with our first two plugs, to sign up for the Morning Skate newsletter. If you do, you'll get to relive some of Wes McCauley's most legendary moments as an NHL referee. You got to check out him on YouTube, and we deal with him in the newsletter as well, the Morning Skate. It's the kind of content that puts a smile on your face. So join the fun at morningskate.io. So we'll see you in 7 days. Thanks for joining us. Take care.